So let's talk about some of the features of the Tigers Teeth grinder, and we'll also talk a little bit about its origin. But the first thing I want to talk about is actually the main grinding wheel that you see right here. And you can see that these little, you probably can't tell real easily if these are V-shaped, but these little V-shaped grinding wheels all combine in a row here. And the reason I do it all in a row when I invented this is so you can grind obviously the whole row of teeth at once, and that's part of what makes this so quick. Now the interesting thing about this is these are actually staggered. So it's not really a one-to-one. So if you were to just push the blade into this to grind it, it doesn't make the whole set of teeth immediately. You move it over a notch. Now, one of the advantages to being able to have a staggered array of these grinding wheels is that you can actually change how many teeth per inch that you're getting out of it. So for example, if I wanted more teeth per inch, or if I had, let's say, a metal cutting blade, so I wanted shallow teeth, you'd only push the blade in here a little bit at a time, move it over a little bit at a time, move it over a little bit, because the more shallow the tooth you're making, the more teeth you can fit per inch, right? So makes sense. The other thing is, let's say you want a more aggressive cut, because you're cutting into, let's say, wood, especially if it's a wood that's really soft, so you want to move as much material out of there as possible, you can make real deep teeth. So in that case, you would be pressing it further in to make a deeper valley, you could say, in those teeth, and then you might only go over one more time. So in that case, you've got nice, big, aggressive teeth that you can use to cut wood. The other thing that's really cool about this is these are now, when you do this, these are now ground teeth. Most of the teeth you're going to get are either going to, if it's carbide, a lot of those carbide teeth actually come either ground, which is more and more of those are, but a lot of them are coming pre-shaped from powdered carbide. With metal, like the bimetal or the steel blades, those teeth are typically actually stamped, so they're not nearly as sharp as a ground tooth. And so once you use this, you're actually probably going to end up with a sharper tooth than what you even got from the factory, if that makes sense. And this is the other cool thing about this. Let's see if I can reach around here and grab a blade that I've already, this is a blade that I've already ground on this, and I've ground this down several times. I don't know, is this focusing in on there at all? Can you see that at all? So, okay, so let me explain why it works so well for getting so many uses out of this when you're using this main grinding wheel. This has a fixed geometry, obviously. So once you have ground your new set of teeth on this, and you wear these down, let's say you just dulled them, but you didn't wear them all the way down to a nub. If you want to get more grinding efficiency and resharpen it, all you have to come in is do this on the side. You just kind of go back and forth and sweep against the sides, and now you have a completely new cutting edge. You're only taking off little bits at a time of that material, so this thing could last dozens and dozens and dozens of cuts. Now, I do know that, and this will be a bit of a side issue, but I know that people will bring this up because there is another product out there that does create a row of teeth, and I'll show it to you right now if you're not familiar with it, and we'll talk about what some of those differences are. This is the Sharp Pog, and it's one of those things I think actually it has its place in the market. It's not what, in my personal opinion, it's not what I would consider a professional grade product per se. But what it is, it's a series of cutoff wheels that are all stacked together, and you would press your blade into there, and you can kind of wiggle it back and forth to try to create teeth on it. But ultimately what ends up happening is you get these really thin, narrow pieces of metal in there. I think they like to call them piranha blade. No, what do they call them? Piranha teeth. They like to call them piranha teeth, which is, I think, just a fancy way of saying these are really thin. So they may not be optimal, and I have tried it, and they do break off into the wood or whatever you're trying to cut. So I think these are better than throwing a blade away, but they really won't shape a properly formed tooth with a root at the bottom. You could say that pyramid shape. They just don't make very strong teeth, and you'll eat up a lot of material in the blade each time you have to grind one of these, and these are very, very slow when you're grinding them. Part of that is that this would go into like a drill, and they just don't spin it at a very high rate. The other thing is, when you're pivoting on a center like this, really the outside ones will get kind of a shape to them, but the inside ones won't. And these being cutoff wheels, they're not really made to grind laterally. They're only made to grind, straight up and down. So yeah, these are, like, again, I think these are good when it comes to just better than throwing them away. But compared to the Tigers Teeth Grinder, this is something that I actually engineered to be more of a professional grade product. Anyway, I digress. So let's talk about some of the other features that are contained in this. And you'll see the side grinding wheel. Now, the side grinding wheel can be taken on and off. This has a 60-degree grinding wheel in here right now. And you can put this little guy right here, which is a thin grinding wheel. And I have actually grinding wheels even thinner than that. Here's some of the cool things that you can do with these grinding wheels. This is made from cubic boron nitride, the coating on this main wheel. So it's designed for cutting steel and bimetal. The side single point wheel that can be changed in and out, you can change that with either a cubic boron nitride wheel or a diamond wheel. The diamond wheel will sharpen, or cut if you will, carbide. So that means you can now sharpen up your carbide tipped blades. Let me see if I can reach around here and I'll grab one. This happens to be a Diablo one, and this has a very, very tight tooth pattern. Now, when you're cutting, as you probably know, oftentimes these aren't being evenly worn. So if you wanted to, the ones that dull down, you can just come right in and kind of bump them in there real quick, and you can sharpen those little carbide teeth. Because the whole length of this blade is not going to be carbide. It's just that top layer right there. So you don't want to push in there and grind too much, but you might think, well, there's a lot of teeth in there. Well, frankly, if you're doing this, you get a little used to it. You could actually sharpen every one of those teeth, even though it seems like a lot on there. You could do that in probably less than a minute, and then you've got a totally sharpened carbide blade. So carbide blades, because they're very hard, they last a long time, but just because they last a long time doesn't mean they don't get dull. So even though you've got a tooth on there, it's going to lose some of its cutting efficiency just by getting dull. So you can come in and just hit these teeth, and you could do the whole row of them if you wanted to. If a lot of them are really wore down, then you're probably going to have to do the whole row of them. Or if you got one if it's wore really deeply just in the center, you might want to kind of even that out with the sides. But at any rate, these are the expensive blades. Everybody knows the carbide blades are expensive, and they're kind of the favorite of a lot of guys. This will allow you to use it several times over. So even if you were able to get 4 sharpens out of this, that means you're saving like 75% when it comes to the cost of one of these blades. So that's a huge savings on it. And even if that whole carbide piece came off and it's just down to the steel, actually you could just come in here and just resharpen that with the main portion, then you got yourself another blade working all over again. Okay, so let's talk about, though, the reciprocating saw blades, because that's the other thing that you're able to sharpen. I really don't know if there's any other product even on the market designed for sharpening reciprocating saw blades other than just manually filing that. And frankly, for me, I usually toss them before I'll spend the time manually sharpening something like that. But I'll show you this. This is a carbide tipped reciprocating saw blade. Now this particular one has a lot of teeth per inch, what makes it very tight for getting in there. So that's why I ended up engineering this. It's a thin wheel, and the thin wheel, I'm going to set this down for a moment. Hopefully I don't drop it. So the thin wheel will fit right in here, okay? And I've got one actually even thinner than that you can use with this. It just takes a quick sweeping action to sharpen these blades, the teeth I should say. And here's the thing that you probably also readily discern when you're using these. Again, typically you're only cutting on a small portion of this, not the whole length of it. And if you try to just, use this portion of it, it can wobble around or anything like that. So oftentimes it's just, the small part that you actually need to sharpen. So if you've got just a small part in there that you need to sharpen, it's not taking you long just to come in there and pop in there and resharpen each one of those. And they're actually, oftentimes these blades actually have quite a bit of carbide on there that you can resharpen. The only exception is once in a while you'll knock a tooth out, knock the carbide out of it, in which case, so be it. But you can't really sharpen. You don't want to sharpen that with a diamond. Diamond you don't want to use on the steel. It will cut steel, but it'll get super hot. It's not optimal. You want to use it's called cubic boron nitride. Even though I know that some grinding wheels, they say they're diamond grinding wheels for cutting steel, probably not. they're probably cubic boron nitride. Okay, let's also talk about something else you can sharpen in there. I'm going to reach around here and grab something else. Circular saw blade. So a circular saw blade can actually be sharpened in a very similar way to the reciprocating saw blade, and we'll have more variety of these thin wheels available. But for a circular saw blade, all you're coming in to do is you're just coming in and you're sweeping like that. That's it. And it's just, it quite literally takes that much work to create a brand new edge on the carbide, and now you can reuse your circular saw blades. And even if you've got a gazillion teeth on it, let's say you've got like a 100-tooth blade, it may seem like a lot, but you can sharpen them so quickly once you get used to it, it really doesn't take that long. And it saves a whole lot of money instead of, paying 100, 120 bucks, 150 bucks a blade, right? Make sense? Okay, drill bits. So we'll talk about drill bits. That's the next thing that can be really handy to sharpen once you're on the job. I know drill bits aren't tremendously expensive nowadays, but it seems like you got to buy the whole kit. You feel bad about paying $7 for one drill when you can buy the whole kit for $20 kind of thing. But when you're on the job site, you don't want to leave the job site, stop what you're doing, especially if you have to pack up all your tools so nobody steals your tools. But to pack it up, or maybe you get something that breaks or whatever, that you have to hold up the rest of your crew if you got to go get more stuff. So anyway, all it takes is along this side is you're just coming in at the same angle, and you're just like you'd sharpen a drill bit normally in a grinder, you're just using this face on it, and you're just sharpening that front little bit, and that's it. And then you want to use the cubic boron nitride with the steel bits, but then you've got a totally sharpened drill bit. And even if you're not really that skilled and that's the thing, if you're not really that skilled at sharpening the drill bits, or you're not really that skilled, you'd think, at making those teeth on the blades here, the reality of it is, even if you're just kind of close, you're going to be a whole lot better off than you were before. But really, to get the skill level down on this, anybody can really do it. It only takes a few minutes. You got extra blades, you got extra drill bits sitting around. Go ahead and fiddle with it and get it down pat so you know how to do it. It's really quite easy. Now, the other cool thing about this, too, with a side grinder is because this comes in both cubic boron nitride and diamond, that means that those masonry bits you have with the carbide on them, you can sharpen those up. And it doesn't, frankly, take long to dull down the edge when you're doing something really abrasive like concrete. So you can sharpen those up. Now, I know those are wider, so we do have some wider wheels coming out that'll make it really handy for doing that. So those are all different things that you can sharpen on there as far as blades and drills. Other things, though, that you can do with this, which are unique, is this particular grinding wheel here. This is a 60-degree angle, and as some of you probably know, a 60-degree angle is the angle you would find in your typical threads. So if you have a screw or something that's threaded that got smashed, or what have you, ground a little bit, and you can't get the nut on there, you can't screw it into something, you can use this wheel, and it's so fast and simple. You can use this wheel to repair the threads. And that is such a huge time saver when compared to if you've got some kind of ruined bolt or something and you got to head out, to go buy a new one. Just repair it while you're on the job site. Now, you've probably heard me talking about, okay, while you're on the job site, you can do this, that, or the other thing. This is what I mean by that. So this pigtail here, the power connector, actually will plug into an adapter. This happens to be the Milwaukee adapter. It'll plug into a power adapter that works with all the different batteries that are commonly available in the commercial contracting and construction world. This is the Milwaukee. We have them for DeWalt. We have them for Bosch, Makita, all those. And you simply plug it into the other side of the pigtail there. And you can buy different, if you want, let's say you could buy the Milwaukee, you could buy the Bosch, if those are the two brands you most likely have. Or even if you've just got extra batteries of one brand, even if it's something you don't normally use, buy the adapter for that. And that way you can have kind of a dedicated battery for your grinder. We will, again, be coming out with more grinding wheels, like a wider, flat grinding wheel, just for general purpose grinding that you can do on the site that will attach right here.